let's go into what is something that you are looking to learn right now that you feel like you have a lot of questions about.
Everything comes to mind. But honestly, probably the thing that I feel like I've not made much progress on is the end game. Uh,
Okay.
that feels like out of all the stuff, I feel like I have a grasp on openings. I feel like I have a grasp on tactics. I feel like I have a grasp on some of the basic stupid errors that
Mhm.
beginners make. But when it comes to the end game, I regularly botch forced checkmate
Okay.
sequences.
That is, I think, a common problem with everybody. There's a meme where the uh, the guy actually there's two booths, and one is opening moves, and the other one is end game study. And the game in the booth that has the opening move sign above it, there's like a long line of people, and in the in game booth, like, is empty. So that's kind of a theme in the chess world. Not a lot of people spend a lot of time on in games, and we should. I have spent like minimal time on it. I think I tend to follow like a few rules in the end game, and I think like if we go back to let's see here, if we go to my profile and let's see here, we go to classical game, view the games. Okay, here's in game right here. Let's can we head back a few? Yeah, here we go. So we'll Oop, wrong way. Okay, I would probably consider we're at the end game, like about here. Okay, and I think that like the main things that I think about when I'm focused on an end game is obviously here. I like to do kind of a pawn assessment first. So on the queen side, well, I guess the first thing I do is like a minor piece count. Like, did I win a minor piece? Am I up a minor piece? In this case, I am up a minor piece. And then so I'll look at a um, that is the first thing. So I've got an extra piece to attack things with that he doesn't. I can loan more pieces to an attack. And what we're looking for essentially, I think, are weakened pawns. So right here, obviously, like my first thoughts are, hitting this pawn up. Um, Probably actually with the rook, and picking off as many of these because we have a 3-on-3 pawn structure on the queen side. And on the king side, though, he's stronger. He has a 3-on-2 majority, and he can easily start to turn this whole thing into a pawn island. So he controls, some center real estate with that center pawn. Um, that's my assessment. Then I'm looking at, okay, well, if he's gonna fight here, the most pieces he can commit really to, like say blocking um, any type of taking here on C or B, is probably moving them or whatever and getting more pieces over to the rescue of this pawn. So those are ideas that he should be looking for if I have the initiative. If I don't have the initiative and they have the initiative, like it's their move, then they're going to be looking for similar things. They're going to be looking at trying to attack here or here, possibly moving the pawn down and getting an attack on my rook, and having to retreat the rook somewhere else, while getting some queenside space with their pawns moving. So initiative is a big thing, and then just kind of assessing like how do I want to play this. If there are some minor pieces left on the board, um, I think one of the things to consider is, okay, if it's like, let's say I've got a knight and they have a bishop. Well, this, bishops do better, when the board is open, and knights do better when the board is closed, the center's closed. So I would be looking for anti-bishop strategies, as to where they would, with employing anti-bishop strategies, um, with my rook, with my pawns, things like that. While they're going to be trying to employ anti-knight strategies, which would be like maybe trading out some pawns and opening up the board. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So these
Yeah.
are kind of like overall ideas I feel that are important to uh, the end game. What happened here was it was white to move. So white had the initiative in this. If I'm looking at this position here, this he's got this pawn that's now being attacked twice. So I would, bringing it down here, it's going to be attacked 3 times. So I mean, I'm thinking about things like, okay, well maybe we should be getting the rook over, or maybe we should be, dropping the pawn to lend support to the e5 pawn. Those are my first ideas, but we'll see what he did here. Okay, so that's a little bit different, and but what it does is it allows for me to create a bit of a tactic here. And can you um, see the tactic that I can use?
See here.
So they moved up 1. Oh. Yeah, I clicked something there. There's actually, what I did was I ended up taking the pawn up there like we talked about. But there's actually, I believe, a tactic that can be employed here. I'm wondering if you can see that, or if anybody in chat sees the tactic. Chat, please feel free to speak up, ask questions, get involved. I think I had a better move here than what I played in the game. In the game I played rook takes c2. But I think what's better, may have been better.
I mean, knight to. Oh gosh, my square knowledge is so bad.
Yeah, you're fine if you can look over at the right here.
I mean, you can
see
fork the you can fork the queen and the rook. Now he can take your knight.
But I'm picking up.
You can take the rook, and then if he takes with the queen, you can take with your rook, and you're up.
So yeah, so that's what I was kind of thinking too. Like, so let's see if we go to analysis board, and look what it's saying. Stockfish is saying knight to f5. So even Stockfish is catching that right there. And then they're saying, like you said, to take with oops. They're saying to take with that pawn. So e takes f5, and then queen takes f5, and then they say straight down. So now let's turn. So obviously it's giving us the best move. Let's turn this off and let's move it down here. Let's play out this endgame a little further now. Now it's white to move. What do you see in white that looks not so hot? I mean, obviously they're down a rook now as well.
They got the
They got
doubled
double
pawns.
pawns. Are there any?
Totally
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable.
So there's.
They got 2 pawns that
Mm-hmm.
are hanging on the queen side. Is that
Yeah,
queen
the queen
side?
side. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Way over there.
So yeah, they've got both those pawns are hanging on C and B. Is there any other pawn you see hanging?
Uh, on the double
Yep.
pawns there. The
Yeah.
yeah.
So
On the what is
yep,
that?
that's
5th rank.
F5. That's right.
5.
Mm-hmm. So now it's White's job. Okay, so White's thinking, at this point, is there any possible way for me to defend both of those pawns, or B, create some type of counterattack? Those are the two things that I would be thinking about right now if I were White. Like, how is there some way for me to protect these pawns? Is there, and if I can't protect both of them, is there some way that I can get this counterplay? And do you know what I mean by counterplay?
No,
Okay,
not exactly.
counterplay would be like, okay, like right now, what I'm seeing that Black can do is I'm seeing Rook takes F5 or Rook takes C2, right? And so he might be seeing something like this, Rook covers, C3, but I'm instantly being able to take this doubled pawn over here, so that's not protecting both. The queen, she could drop down here, but she can't really protect both. But is there a way that you could create a threat that is large enough that I can't go take this right now? Something that would prevent me from doing it while protecting one of the pieces that would, cause me to have like a threat or anything like that. Those are types of that's what I kind of mean by counterattack.
Yeah.
So like right now, like go
So
ahead.
like, what about queen to F2?
Okay. So queen to F2 comes up here, and it certainly protects this pawn. And ow, actually, it's protecting that one too. I can't go. Well, no, if it were over here, it could. So, well, let's see what that looks like. So if we go queen to F2, we're protecting up here. And then what about Black? So if we can't take obviously here, but can we put another Can we put another attacker on it, or just go over and snap this? I could just snap this, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that's, but so let's say I take that, right? And now you've got protection here, protection. So that's going to be probably my next target. Now this is where it probably gets more into the nitty gritty. So what are some of White's options here? Obviously, they've got a 3-on-2 pawn structure, so that is their strength. Over here, it's 3-on-3, so this is even. The big problem is this knight, or this rook. So I wonder, is there just any way we can just take the rook off the table? That would be awesome. Let's see here. Can we say infinite analysis multi-line, so you enable. Study, board editor.
Board
Yeah.
editor. It's probably
Yep.
board editor.
Okay, let's flip it. And let's just say this is off the table. Go back to the analysis board. And let's see here. Flip it.
If I could do that in real games, just take the like troublesome pieces off the board. I mean, in real life, I guess you can.
Yeah. Right. Okay, we'll continue from here. Play with the machine.
The way I heard about a sport today I had never heard of. It's called boxing
Boxing
chess,
chess.
where you boxing and playing
Oh my
chess.
gosh.
It's either you either checkmate the opponent or knock them
Yeah.
out while you're boxing. And apparently, it's a real
Oh my
sport.
gosh, that is wild. We'll just play the random side here. Okay.
Right.
So you play him at chess and you knock him out? Okay. Okay, where is this? Is this like on Steam or something, or what's the deal?
Well, when I saw this on a Reddit post, and it was kind of a joke because apparently, and it's going to have a special day of sports entertainment in the movie
Uh-huh.
Dodgeball. They like they mocked ESPN in the movie with this joke that there's like all these different ESPNs, and the dodgeball tournament in the movie Dodgeball with Ben Stiller happens on ESPN Ocho.
Right.
Well, ESPN, where they have from ESPN Ocho, and it includes dodgeball and boxing, chess, and like
Oh
one other
my God,
sport
I
that I can't
love
remember
it.
what it was. So this is going to be on ESPN. I don't know. I don't know all the dates, but I saw it on Reddit, and I just thought, man, I got to tell Adam about
You
this.
know what I was
That's like right up your
I know,
alley,
right?
man.
Well, here, yeah, exactly, because I do a little bit of boxing, which would be good.
Knife fighting chess would be like money
Right.
for you.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I was also thinking about another great Twitch idea, which would be Fireball. So you get the fireballs running out there at the marks, right? And we just stream that puppy on Twitch, right?
Dude, I'm down. I'm down.
Okay.
I got some fireballs in my garage.
I think it'd be awesome, man. It's just like, oh, now I'm playing chess today. Well, that would be your channel. That would be your channel. It's just like, what does Doooskey play? Fireball. What? um, okay, so we're in an end game here. We're in a pretty even end game. They are up a pawn. It is Stockfish level 7, so they're likely to whoop us. They're going to be able to really easily get this king over here to protect this piece. So my thoughts, tend to okay, so we want to somehow stop this piece. We're obviously in mortal danger from being taken by G4. We have to do something. He has to move, or we have to find counterplay. So what are your thoughts now that we're looking at, okay, well, if we look over here on the queen side of the board, we have 3-on-3. And over here, they've got this extra pawn, and they seem to want to be driving this sucker home. So they've got a barricade here behind F4. What are some of what would you say would be like your first candidate move in this position?
I mean, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, it doesn't feel like there's any great
Mm-hmm.
moves.
Okay. So this is kind of where do you feel like you might be
Just get out of trouble.
get out of trouble, right? Okay.
And
Now, is there any way that we can get out of trouble but simultaneously attack something? That would be another thing that I would be thinking about. I'd be like, okay, so since we got to get out of trouble, since we got to get that rook out of there, is there anything that looks like, okay, if he does it, like we're gonna make threats of our own to try and earn back that initiative? That's kind of what I'm thinking, right? So So
Yeah.
okay, so no great moves. We need to escape. Can we escape and redo our attack? So what would be a candidate move there? And you don't have to go too deep. Just like what's something that like just kind of comes to mind, and then we can work through the moves afterwards.
A move. It doesn't seem great, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something. And it's not running away with the rook. But that would be queen to
Okay.
e4.
Queen to e4 here, and
Back that
mm-hmm.
pawn. But the problem is, even though you're threatening the rook, you can't take it without losing your queen.
Okay. So what if we move here? What's going to take the queen right away?
As we stay there,
I see.
right? Or am I missing
Well,
something?
I'm just wondering, like, okay, we can move here, sure. Okay, queen to e4, but we're still going to get our rook taken, right? So that to me would be the deal there. Max Harvey, yo, may God be with you in it. Hey, thanks, Max. Appreciate that, man. And actually, uh, Max, our guest today is actually lead pastor of a church, which is pretty cool. So interesting chat message. Uh,
And I'm terrible at chess, so Adam's working with
okay,
me here.
so yeah, so we go here, but then the the rook falls. So we've got to move the rook. Where do you? And it's obviously we're gonna retreat, or
To B, let's move that rook to B5,
okay, so
man.
b5. See, now I was thinking about that too. So we moved b5 over here, and we're chilling on b5. This doesn't work because we can take. So my thoughts right here are we're straightening out that. But let's go ahead and let's give it a shot. Let's go give it an attack here. And Stockfish says, "No, no, sir. No, no. Uh, you're not gonna take my pawn." Um, but it gave us some attacking chances. Now we're not worried about this because then we can just take here. What's so? But we've gained a tempo. They had to react, right? We attacked. Now we've got a little bit of tempo. Where what do you think? What do you think that they want to do here? What do you think that they want to do?
Oh man. Um, for the game where you're trying to march your
Mm-hmm.
pawns and get them.
Yeah, that is like yeah, that's like in-game rule number one is try to create passed pawns. And are you familiar with what a passed pawn is? Um,
I don't see any
No,
passed
there are
pawns.
no passed pawns yet. Yeah, the passed pawn is like, let's say that this pawn wasn't on the board. This would be a passed pawn because there's no pawn that can stop it. But he's gonna want to create, I think, situations like this and this. Um, so I would like my thought in this is okay. Well, I want to maybe put pressure on this pawn or pressure here somehow, um, and make this so it can't move. Maybe something like queen to d6. Well, he can't move this pawn down because it's pinned, right? Which means he's going to have to move the king
Yeah.
somewhere, or try and you know threaten my queen and get the queen off the line somehow. But so that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So it's like, okay, well, how can we stop his advances? Like, because this is what I think is coming next, possibly. Um, the C4 move to where it's like, oh, we've got to get him out of here, but where does he go? So it looks like he could trap us here, right? Because then we can't go here. This is bad. This is bad. This pawn's controlling here. These pawns, these two pawns are controlling all four of these squares, right? So that's what I just saw. Is that's coming? We could possibly get that knight or that rook trap. So we got to get out of there. So you see what I'm saying? So again, we got to move the rook again. Where do you think is a good place to move the rook to, or is there just really? I think there's only one move, really.
Is it down to B6?
That could work, but once we move down to B6, could we be trapped? Is there somewhere where we could put him? Like B6 is, I think that's a legitimate move. Is there somewhere we can put him where he's more active? Because that's what I'm thinking about all the time. It's like, okay, I want to put the rook somewhere. You know, we've got to get him so he's not trapped. Where's a good place to put him where he's going to be more active? That's what I'm thinking about. And what do rooks like? Do you open files,
man.
right?
The only one is the D, man. D file there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is he's very active here. There's threat. The queen is in front of the king. So there's ideas of, you know, putting pressure on this D file and maybe picking up this queen, right? So those would be kind of like my ideas. So I think getting him, yeah, to a place there was good. So obviously he's putting more guards on this pawn. What else comes to mind right now? Given some of these rules.
Oh, what for us? What we should do?
Yeah, it's our move. King. He moved king to G3 and lending more support to his F4 pawn.
Something like if you move your queen to D6, you're backing up your rook so you can threaten that queen.
You been looking at my Janet? No.
Max Harvey, thanks for the follow, buddy. Okay, so D2.
You're also pinning that pawn.
Yeah, because you're wanting to create this kind of fork here between the pawn and the queen, right? Is that for D2?
I mean,
are you there, man?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, no. I'm thinking D6. That was what I was thinking.
D6.
But
oh, D6. Oh, not D7.
D6. Because then you're also pinning that pawn while doing the same thing.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good move. Okay, so we come here. He's pinned. He's got to leave the king there now. He's kind of committed, right? That also creates threats here. Yeah, I like it, man. I think that's a cool one.
You been looking at my Janet? No.
Hey, Jack Irving 91. Thank you for the follow, buddy. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's give that a shot, man. Let's give that a shot. I like it. Okay, so he's.
Is that Paula Abdul?
No, that's Janet Jackson because he says you've been looking at my Janet. And so Janet Jackson does the little dance move there. Okay, so we missed that hanging pawn down there. But we do have, and we've got another pawn here that's hanging. So what are you thinking about now? What are you thinking about now?
Man.
is like a candidate move. It doesn't have to be anything brilliant, just something that looks like just your, because this is what I kind of do. I go, what's just kind of my like right off the bat like thing that I see.
Uh, my run off the bat instincts are pretty
Okay.
bad right now. So I mean, obviously you can move that pawn. You can move your B pawn to B5 and block their pawn
From dropping down.
the way of the queen.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and you're saving it from the dang
Yep.
queen
Yep.
there.
That was kind of my thought too. So I think that's a pretty good candidate move. Number one here is B7 to B5. And then this pawn is now got pawn guard duty. It's kind of anticipating this possible move here, C4. So we can protect that. We can protect the rook. Also, I'm looking at up and over type of stuff here as well. I'm also looking at, while they could come in here and snag this pawn, maybe with a check and then a snag, we're looking at putting a second attacker, you know, on this this pawn as well. Those are some. That's another move. So here, check. We move away. He picks up that pawn, but now we've got possibly like rook up, and we're looking at attacking this. So those are some of my things as well. You know, do we want to risk something like that, or can something like that wait, and we should just move the pawn up first? What do you like? Those are the types of things I have to consider. Like, this is a little bit more risky, because it's going to let him grab hold of this extra pawn, and then he's going to have this 3-on-1 structure. So it might be safer for us to just move. What do you think?
I mean, I also like that G5 move.
It's more aggressive, isn't it?
He can't do anything about it. I mean, I guess he just takes your pawn. Well, that's what he does.
Yeah, he could just take the B pawn. He doesn't even have to hit the check first. He could just hit the B pawn, right? So, well, let's see here. I like this. He takes the pawn, and then we come in here. We're hitting this again. So now we've hit it with 3 pieces, and then where's he go? You know, is he coming to the aid of the pawn? He can't come up this way. The knight here is, or the rook here is blocking off him getting access to this. This move down here, he's blocked off from the queen. There's this right here hitting the check and making me move and grabbing this. Again, I don't think he can come to the aid of that pawn, so I think that G4 actually works, but we will be giving him a pawn. Because if we just get the pawn out of the way, he can go straight back up to here, and then we're kind of thwarted. He'll have 3 defenders, the queen, rook, and king on this, and we'll only have 3 attackers, so it won't be enough. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go through with that and see what Stockfish, how it punishes us. Okay, so it's going for the check, like we talked about, and then it wants to hit this pawn. And then we are going to avoid, he can't get any more checks in right here because this is pinned. And we've got 2 attackers. Okay, so he wants to come this way and get access back to this. Do we hit the check now? Because this is what he's wanting to do, come over here, right? And then we move again or whatever, and then he's coming up here to lend support. Do you see that? So, do we go ahead, hit the check, force this, or do we go through with our idea? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, this is where I lose the game right here. It's a patented
Okay.
move of mine. How I'll find the worst move
Okay.
possible. So let's see here. I like going through with the plan, moving
Okay.
the rook up, and just sort of fending off. I mean, I guess doable because we can just move our king and see what happens
Okay.
next.
Yeah.
Queen can. It doesn't feel like the queen can really do a whole lot except annoy us with checks because the rest of her pieces are all distracted.
Right. Yeah. They're doing duty here, protecting this pawn here on f4. So, so my concern.
That pinned pawn is.
Yeah, the pin pawn's useful, right? So it'd be hard to get. My thought is this: what'll happen is we go to guard, hits the check, I move out of the way again, and then he comes up here to come to the aid of that pawn. You see what I'm saying? So that's my concern. But we'll go ahead and go through with the plan and see what Stockfish decides is best. But I'm thinking E8 is coming with check. Oh. All right. So we can't move here, can't move here, can't move. Not here, not here. We only have one legitimate move here. Okay. So same thing, we're protecting this pawn. They're gonna draw us. We put too much pressure on this and he can't get back. Oh. Oh. Do we have it? Can we say check? Okay, so what do you think right here? We've got the opportunity to strike.
Looks like we can win the rook.
Possibly, yes.
Okay, so if you take that pawn and check, take with the rook, or will he move his king? See, I don't understand. I don't know which is best, so I never know what the opponent will do.
Well, so let's.
Is it better to move your
Right,
king?
yeah, so let's look at a couple of the candidate moves. So if we take with the rook, right? Then we're not putting the king in check. So he could actually take this pawn, put us in check, and now we got to move down here. He could take the queen, and then we have to capture back, and then he's just picking up. I don't know, but so that's kind of the road we're going down there. If I take with the pawn, we hit him in check right away, and now he's moving. He's got to move the king. We've hit that with the tempo, and it gives us time to maybe move the king out of the way to protect this pawn over here from the queen. So those are some different ideas. So those are some candidate moves. So that's kind of, I mean, so really it's just becoming this kind of pawn and major piece game. Is this starting to make more sense to you? Do you feel like, okay, this is, and then you're looking for mating moves, stuff like that, but initiative at this, if you've noticed, is a big deal, right? And we a lot of times get initiative through these kind of forced checks and whatnot. So which would you like to try out? Would you like to try where we kind of grab this initiative by hitting this check and causing a forced move of some sort with the king moving somewhere?
I like that move.
Do you like this move? Okay. And it doesn't allow him to come up and grab this pawn yet because he is in check. And it's not going to be a move here. He's going to have to move that king.
Yeah, because if he takes with his rook, he's screwed. He can't do that.
We'll go ahead.
We'll
give this a shot. see how we're doing. Okay, so he's moved into here. So obviously the next move is going to be Wago, right? Check and take a pawn, looking at taking his own pawns. That's my thought. So what are your thoughts here? What do you think he wants to do?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the first thing I
What about
see.
dropping the check with the pawn on G4, like G4, G5? Then I can just take back, right? So not really a big deal. So this isn't going to happen. Anything else you see, maybe?
Good off the top of my head.
I'm thinking, to get the king, working on protecting this pawn. The queen's protecting this pawn. Oh, wait. That would lead to mate. Right here. If I move up to E5, queen to F5 is checkmate. I can't move anywhere. So, and I can't move down. So, could this be an option? So I want to keep him protected. So I think you're going to have to move down or over when he's taken. And I think he's going to want to trade queens right away. We'll just move him up here to get him closer to the pawn action, but yep, there it is. Okay. And then this is coming down. Then we've got all this stuff coming down. Yeah, so that gets pretty heavy, man. Did that make good sense to you? Does that help kind of like
Yeah, that's helpful.
What we're
that's
thinking
helpful.
about? It seemed like it would have been better almost to play a lot of those moves safe, right? Like maybe you just play a little bit safer, I think, but hard to say. Hard to say.
Level 3 constantly is beating me down. So
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so that's kind of like some in-game stuff. Anything more about the in-game that you're thinking about, like, because it's basically about protecting pawns, marching them up, and trying to put as many attackers, like get all of the pieces that you have active, right, and use them to attack a weak point. So basically, you're just improving your position so that way you can, like we just did there, right? We're just improving our position to.
Yeah, it seems like. So is it?
You been looking at my Janet? No.
Game
no
thing
way.
to move your pawns a lot. That's not something you're doing a lot when you're. I mean, could you explain that to me? That's like a big question I have. Like,
repeat it again.
Temptation. So sometimes I have this temptation in the middle game to be real aggressive with pawns because it feels like stuff up. They're pretty powerful pieces. It seems like of the puzzles I do or the games I watch, the pawns are for the most part in the game, particularly the flank pawns. All advice on, I mean, is it more common in chess to kind of save your pawns for the end, or pawn attacks that people like to use? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good question. And I have a hard time with this. And I think what they tell you, what you're going to hear over and over, is that you cannot move pawns backwards, right? So that means that once you've committed a pawn and moved it, it's only going to continue to go forward, or it's going to get captured, right? So I think that using your flank pawns, like let's see here, let's just go to the board editor here real fast. I think like if we look at a common position here, like and here, and then this, and here. I think that using the C pawn to advance, and grab control of the center is pretty wise to a degree, because the C pawn can create an open file here, which, like in this case, black already has. It's a half open file, and then if anybody, they're going to try and continue to have strong, try and have a strong center, and so then my thoughts start to become like, okay, so can we get rid of their strong center? And that's, you see what's happened here with using those flank pawns, and what I mean by flank is the F and C. And
yeah.
they were able to use this F pawn now to drop it, lend support here to E4, and they've really opened up their this fianchetto dark square bishop. So these are some concepts with pawns where, like, you can kind of use them to, if they're really helping you improve your position. This is going to be an excellent square over here if you can ever get this knight here on the 6th rank. So yeah, like if you're left with, like, you're saddled with, a knight, right? Using an outpost that's going to get you into enemy camp, which would be for white 4th or 3rd rank, and using those pawns for an outpost is great. So center pawn advance, I think, is pretty good. But when you're talking more about pawns over here, it really depends on, like, that's where things kind of come down to the end game, right? And like you're looking at trying to say, okay, well, I've got a 2-on-3 here, right? So maybe trying to get something like this eliminated for this guy down here too, and eating up these pawns to make this like a 1-2 type of game, right? Like a 1-on-2 pawn type of end game. So those are some, and then having a nice outpost up here. So center pawns, I think, are great for outposts for the knights if you have them. If you let's say you had the bishop pair, then what I'm wanting to do is, trade out those pawns and open up this board for my bishop pair to rain hellfire on the enemy, right? So that's what so it kind of becomes a different approach now if I've got the bishop pair. And so then my objective, for black is, or for white is to do something to, try and uh, like for instance, get these bishops off the table so um, they don't have that advantage. So your pawns are kind of just like, I feel like they are the environment for whatever minor pieces you're saddled with. If you've got the bishop pair, try and get those center pawns off the board and open it up. If you've got the knight pair, you know, then try and use those pawns sparingly to clog up the center, you know, so you can use your pawns that way. And then, does that make sense?
I do always feel like when I get real aggressive with my pawns, I end up with these real jank pawn structures that just at them. They go so
Right,
wrong.
like you've got like this here, and they might have like this really nice like kind of little pawn structure here and here, and you're sitting like something like this with a backwards pawn here in the center or something, like stuff like that, or
Yeah.
yeah, and that those are things that we have to think about. I think in the middle game, is like when we get to that middle game there, where, you know, what type of pawn structure are we leaving ourselves for the end game? Are we going to the end game? And that's the kind of stuff that, yeah, I would definitely keep in mind. So, and I feel like the middle game is really all about the battle. And this is in Jeremy Silman's book, you know, Reassess Your Chess. The middle game is really about this battle between the minor pieces. And it's kind of, I think, the idea most of the time for you to try and end up with the bishop pair and eliminate both their bishops, right? With your knights. So now, and then open up the center of the board. Um, so that way you can, like I said, yeah, run into, uh, you know, have that advantage over them in the end game. Also, another thing that you have to think about within the end game, depending upon what pieces you're saddled with here. This could be a very good game, like let's say this is happening over here. Well, actually, let's do this. The board is nice and open, and my pawns are on both sides of the board here. That's gonna come in really handy for this bishop, because especially since my pawns are on each side of the board and white's pawns are on each side of the board, this bishop, you're going to see the power of it being able to fly from one place to the other real easy, right? Now the knight's going to have a hard time because once he gets entrenched over somewhere, right, then he's going to have to try and like make it back to the other side of the board to even start doing anything with the pawns that are on the other side. Are you catching my drift? So this position here in particular is better for black. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The knight here is totally inferior, and you know, something the black can do that or white could do to be, you know, anti bishop strategy maybe is starting to get these pawns onto dark squares and getting all the pieces onto dark squares to eliminate the power of the bishop, right? So that's something that the knight has. So you're like you said before, and you've said this, you know, like several times, is like it kind of always seems to be kind of drawish a lot of times in chess in these positions. But so those are some other things to think about the end game. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Okay.
It's helpful.
Do you want to try and what's that?
At it. Full looking at it.
Looking at what?
Just seeing it on the board.
So maybe we could do a. Do you want to do a game and we could kind of go through some of the things from?
Sure.
forward to end. Do you want to play with me, or do you want me to play somebody online and we can go through and analyze stuff as we play the other opponent? Which would you prefer? We can do both.
Better. Why don't you play somebody and I'll follow along and ask questions as we go. Like if you, I don't know what kind of time controls.
We could do something longer where we do
You know.
like classical rated, right? Like 15 minutes with a 15-second increment.
There you go.
So we'll have some time to talk about it. We'll just play either side here. It doesn't matter. And this way we can kind of go through the opening and then go through the middle game and end game. That sort of thing. Try to play it a bit safe here. Hey, I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for the follows. I appreciate it. We're gonna here with my good friend Doooskey. He is new to chess and newer to chess, and we're just trying to kind of go through like questions for people who are under the 1400 rating. So we've got E4 player. So my first thing is, okay, like I'm a Sicilian player. So we're just going to go straight into a Sicilian. What type of Sicilian will kind of be dictated by his play. So I like the hyper. Accelerated. It's a little bit more aggressive, and I feel like for a longer game, I don't want to do that. I want to kind of play it like a little bit more chill. And what I'm doing here is just kind of like this is book line right here. I'm going to continue to develop pieces. Of course, you know the rule, only move pieces once in the beginning. Now, here's an interesting position in the Sicilian. He's got a lot of pressure right here on B5. So the correct response right now is A6 to stop anybody from coming down here, especially the bishop coming and pinning this knight and putting pressure on C6. So we're just kind of following main book line. This has been played a kabillion times. He's adding pressure here for me not to come in and take. He's also wondering, I think, if he's going to need to drop his queen to come in here to grab up, like if I go into a dragon, right? That's what I think he's doing, and then maybe even preparing this and this for a queenside castle, castle and long for this Yugoslav attack. Those are my thoughts on this. So what stops this in its tracks a lot of times is this push to D5. So we're going to develop kingside a bit more and see if we can get that type of move in there. And we have to ask, do we want to go dragon, or do we want to go maybe with something a little bit more conservative like E7? So this move, he's keeping us from coming in here and threatening that bishop. That's what this move's all about. Sometimes you'll see this played to do that. So are we going to get castled on the queens, on the king, or queen? We don't know yet. All right. So Doooskey, so in this position here with your openings, what you know so far, what do you think are some, what do you think would be a good move here for black to continue with this Sicilian? What looks good to you?
Continue with the Sicilian. You're supposed to do at this stage in the Sicilian. But if I were playing this, move the E pawn, go E5.
Okay.
I might do that.
Hit this with a little pressure. Now we've already moved this pawn once in the opening. So I would probably not be inclined to get him going any further. I'd want to find another piece that I haven't moved. What else looks good to you? But that's a decent counter move because you are causing him to move. But I think what he's going to do is take right off the bat, forcing us to have a reaction as well. What are some other things that you might see? The piece we haven't moved yet. That's what I would be thinking about. Piece we.
I mean, do you want to try to? Or I mean, what's better, to castle king side on this?
Yeah, I mean in the Sicilian, you're castling king side. Sicilian.
Okay, so you want to fiend kettle your bishop? You want to set that up? Is that a
Yeah,
smart
I mean
move here?
that's taking us into the Sicilian defense, so or to the dragon variation of the Sicilian defense. So I do like that. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, it's a natural move. It's development. We haven't moved that piece. So yeah, that I think is a solid move for sure. Using a bandy cam? No, I'm not using a bandy cam. I'm using a Logitech. Okay, so what do you suppose moving the queen down here does? What do you think his intentions are here?
Side? The reason to do that. He's going to try to stop your bishop, right? He's going to try to eat your bishop.
Yep, that's it. So eating the bishop is first and foremost on his mind because in the Sicilian, this bishop's considered to be worth more points than a normal bishop. Normal bishops and knights, bishops are worth, I would say, like 3.1 or 3.25, and a knight would be worth 3. Well, the fianchetto dark square bishop in the Sicilian dragon would be worth more like 3.5, 3.6. It's got a little bit more oomph to it, right? So now we've got to recapture. Which way do we recapture?
Towards the center, right?
Yes, absolutely. Very good.
See, look,
You're
I'm learning,
there,
Adam.
Man. You are getting there. This is awesome. You're doing great. Okay, so he hasn't castled yet. I'm thinking he's going long. I'm thinking he's going long. What's your money on?
Oh man, let's say it.
What's that?
I said I'd put my money on long as
well.
Oh,
we were both wrong. He went short. Okay, so a bit more of a traditional setup here. So he's castled. What do you think we should do now?
Oh. Bad ideas. That's all I get, I swear. My brain, here's what my brain just thought. I thought, well, if your knight takes stupid aggression, I'm like,
What'd you say?
Wait, yeah, E4.
Okay.
If your knight takes E4, it's like, well, boom, now you're threatening the queen, and it's like, and if he takes your knight, take his B2 pawn and threaten his, but it's like that doesn't actually do anything helpful. That's just where my brain goes.
Well, and we don't have any other defenders on there, so once we were to take E4, with the knight. Knight captures e4. He can just capture straight back, and we're
Oh
down the
yeah.
exchange 2 points on that one because we only picked up that pawn for 1 point, right? So yeah, but see, that's what we do. That's what you got to do. You got to just kind of do the candidate moves like that. That's the biggest problem that I've seen with a lot of like new chess players is, you know, is the piece hanging? Does it have any defenders? And that's the first thing that we have to consider. So, but yeah, I that's a but I'm glad you're honest. That's great. That was the first candidate move you saw. So that's what I like to do is like I'll be going, oh, I want to make that move, and then I'm like, okay, wait, don't do it yet. Let's just draw an arrow and go, okay, is that hanging? Does it have any defenders? Right? So it does. Um, so any other candidate moves? We're at move 10 and he castled. And is there a rule of thumb on castling that you remember?
Castle. That's what
Castle
you should
before
do.
move 10, yeah.
Yeah.
Castle by move 10 is usually the rule of thumb for new players, beginner to intermediate, I'd say. You want to be castling by move 10. Get that king safe. So let's go ahead and get that king all safe. Safety. Let's get him to safety. Pardon me. So let's see our candidate moves for them. I'm thinking they might go ahead and come down and knock that bishop off now. Like I'm thinking bishop to h6. That's my thing I think they're going to want to do. What do you see? Do you see anything that you think they're going to want to do?
Where I usually just wait and I think, I wonder what they're gonna do, and watch it happen with no real clue as to what they're gonna do. On occasion, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I right now like like since now they're opening them that flank pawn like we talked about. What do you think that move's prepping for? What do you think they wanted to do that? What do you think they want to prep?
Is that e5 they're wanting to
I
do?
believe it is. Yeah, that's a big thing when white wants to go and they want to get in e5, because e5 is going to make it difficult for this bishop to come to life, right? So we want to try and keep this e5 square open, is my thought. Also, there appears to be an open file and a rook that's hanging. I'm seeing on a8, right? And we haven't developed but we also haven't developed the light square bishop. So, so what do you think we can do that's going to help get the light square bishop going, as well as looking at what they're prepping to do to get to e5? And take it
One move for your bishop now, or you could move your D pawn to open up another option, but that kind of blocks your queen. So I would guess you're going to move your light squared bishop, right?
Yeah, that's one option. I don't want them. I want to put up a resistance so to this, because this is in a Sicilian. This is kind of the thing, is getting that to d5. So I would like to put up some resistance, but I don't know how we're going to defend it once we move to here. So maybe straight up, and then here there's also so I think a d pawn move is good. It's just it's hard to say though. This one's kind of it gets tricky. And for anybody who's new in the stream right now, I've got my good friend Doooskey here, and Doooskey's new to chess, and we're just kind of going through each phase of the game to kind of go over questions that he might have about those things. So here in Sicilian, so my idea is like This is coming. I want to save it. So this right here, I'm thinking is going to elicit this type of response from his rook. But then knight down brings this bishop to life, and it blocks. It's going to help us protect the d6 pawn. Does that all make sense to you? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I'm thinking about. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Or he could just get really aggressive and pop, right? We both still got the bishop pair. Everything in his looks pretty well guarded, except I'm seeing one hanging piece. Do you see it? On his end, on white.
He's got a hanging pawn.
Yep, they're on B2. So that's a possible target, right? Could also bring the rook to life on A8, right?
Yeah.
So let's see here. So he's moved this bishop down, right? And he's looking at ideas of attacking our hanging pawn. So what do you think? Are we offsetting? Are we bringing to the center? But that would, bringing to the center, what's that do automatically? That does something bad, I think.
Block your queen in? You don't want to do
yeah,
that,
because then we can't protect d6, right? From the queen popping down, right? So,
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
So this is eyeing down not only this pawn, but also the rook here. The rook has a natural square. But this right here, coming, even if we get this in, now he's popping this, and then we're running from him. I don't want to run from him. I want to be a bit more aggressive. What do you think? What do you think? Ooh, there's other ideas too.
And what stops you from moving your pawn up d5?
Moving up to d5. The main thing I think that stops me is I don't know how long this bishop's gonna be blocked in. That would be my main thought.
Okay.
But I think it's a reasonable move because that's something that Black's trying to do in the Sicilian is get to d5. So we could try that, but you know, and then that does leave us options for later on. We do have pretty firm control over d5. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we got this pawn. That's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And to his 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't quite have enough pieces yet to make that move. Do you see how that worked out? So
yeah. Now what if you move your bishop? What if you?
Yes, exactly. Fianchettoing the bishop here then brings us our 5th attacker, right? So now you're seeing this is becoming a battle for the center, isn't it? Okay, so now that move to me, I'm like, okay, what's that really do? Right here, A6. I don't like it. So, okay, we're down to 356. We're going to speed it up to get some time. So now we've got our 5 attackers on D, right? So this, yeah, so I think we're ready to push. Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defenders here as to he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers. So that's not nearly enough. We own that square firmly. And that's why I like that. We're advancing pawn. Now, this is where we're advancing pawns. Okay, so I don't know what he's doing here. I don't know what this is all about. So since we've got this, I like the ideas of even grabbing more pawn control. But somebody else needs to come to life. Huh? Yep.
Rook.
Yep. Rook needs to come to life so we can start thinking about this type of march in the center, right? And using this flank pawn, this C pawn, to help lend support. But we don't want to leave him backwards. And also what it's doing is it's going to start opening up this fianchetto line for our other bishop because we are attacking in the flank with both the bishops. So now we've activated the rook. He's got a job. You get a job. You get a job. You get a job. And we're using all of our pieces at this point, I feel like, to lend support to the attack. Okay. So, like, I feel like that's where he wants to go, right? This would be a nice outpost. But we come up here, when we come up here, and then we're boxing in this bishop. We're making inroads. I don't know. I think that's going to be good for right now. Let's go ahead. We'll make these moves. And then we've still got 1, 2, 3, or we got 1, 2, 3, 4 to his 1, 2, 3 attackers on here. So we're still good here. So now I'm trying to create like this kind of passed pawn. Oh, wait. I made a mistake. So he's got 2 blockers here, right? But you've got 3 attackers here. See, he made a mistake here. He could have picked this up with this and this. Okay. So now if we go up and he takes, I take. We don't want him to take this piece. So let's just, we'll rook lift him here. So that's kind of a thorn we'll need to deal with. But I'm liking our center control. Plus the rook up here lends support to the bishop on this diagonal. All right, so we've gained a little bit of time back here.
Can't really do anything down low there. All of his lower moves are blocked and doing much in that spot, is he?
I don't think so. We could be busting. So support points, we've talked about that a lot, right? Or outposts. I'm looking for outposts right now. I'm also looking at so a couple things. Do we want outposts, or do we want to continue to march pawns? These are questions that I have, right? So like knight outpost, right? And he's got lots of support. 1. So there's a nice knight outpost that also attacks the queen. You've got lots of great support here, and then it opens up the diagonal here for the bishop, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I saw that move.
So it does a couple things simultaneously. It's also adding more support to the C5 knight as well. So that's never a bad thing. Okay, so now we have got the bishop pair. We've earned the bishop pair, but he does, his compensation I feel is like this knight, right? Now do we want to take the queens off the table? The points are even. We have the bishop pair, which I feel is a bit stronger. Do we take the queens off the table and start to simplify the position? Do you feel that we have enough advantage to do that? What do you think?
Enough that I think you would take the queens off here.
I think, you know, this is what I like, this idea of actually putting it here. And I guess we could take this, and then we've got, I don't know. I want to take the queens off the board because I feel like the bishop pair is going to be a lot of compensation. you know, and we're going to simplify the board. So basically at this point now, let's simplify the board. So his outpost here is annoying. There's no way for me to get to it with this piece. What do you think here? Knight. This is a passed pawn. See? So that's an asset. I want that protected. So this is a connected pass pawn. Look at this beautiful pawn chain now that we have. And I like to get stuff behind my passed pawn. So he wants to come take this, I guess, but that's not going to happen. So we're going to make him earn it and then protect our 7th rank here. Oh, but this is hanging. This could be taken. We have a couple issues here. Okay. So now we're more in our end game. Let's create some pressure here with this guy. Okay, so we have to recapture, right? Points are still even. He's got 14 minutes. We don't have nearly as much time. Okay, so this is pens now. That's a mistake. Oh, wait a second. He could hit check. Do we take him out now? Or do we get out of check range? Well, we have to move this or get out of check, because this is going to come with check, and then he'll swap this up. So I think, do you see the problem here with that? He can hit the check. Now he's forking both the pieces, so we have to take here, and then he picks up my rook. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a few quick moves here. We'll get us to an endgame. See, he'll have to pick up with this, and then I want to protect this pawn. So we're going to lose our bishop pair. We've got the same color bishop, not opposite color. We're giving a little protection here. This was probably the wrong move. We got to look at something like this possibly. See, now he's got this nice pawn structure here. I don't want to trade out yet. He's up a pawn and I don't want to trade. I do want to protect my 7th rank. I can't do it here because he can hit check, and then that's a discovered hit on my rook. Open file, half open file. I like the open file. He's given us control of the open file. We should take the open file. I think that's just a better idea. That could give him another pawn here. Yeah. So uh-oh. Grayscale, electronic tone, interesting. I consider doing that myself in the game, settle on half saturation. Yeah, I like that. Doooskey, are the police knocking down your door, man?
No, that's my wife hammering on something in the kitchen.
Righto. Okay, so we're going to go up this way. So, Chris, what we're doing here is I got my friend Doooskey on here, and we're just kind of going through some stuff to look at questions he might have on opening, middle, and in-game. So now this is what I think he's going to do. Okay, so he's going to pop this all the way down which then we can grab this pawn. Or not. Ooh, that was a mistake. Tactic. He can't take. Oh, yes, he can. Because he can just recapture here and then march this down. Oh, that was my bad. See, I didn't do my candidate moves, and look, now I'm losing. Okay. So that's going to be the game. He's up 4 points. That's it. So we'll go ahead and resign. And I was moving a little bit faster because we were down to 131, and we can go to the analysis board here. Request computer analysis, and let's take a look at some of these things that we did through here. Now, do you feel like from watching this game that you had questions about certain things I did throughout it that you'd like to address?
Okay. Man, I want to rewind.
Let's do that.
Can we go back? Let's go back to your rook C7 at the very end.
Rook B. Let's see, rook E7 here.
I think it was C7.
Okay. Rook D7, and then we went here.
Like cat.
That. Rook C7. Was that the one you were thinking of, Doooskey?
A bit later, because I think your rook sat there for a while.
Is it back to here, to D7?
Yeah, okay. So, okay, my question is, go back one move.
Mm-hmm.
The move right, the move when you go from C7 to D7 with your rook, why could you not go to B7 there? Hanging pawn at the top.
That's a good question. Yeah, I was concerned about him then getting this initiative to really start this pawn march rolling down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then then that move is null, basically. There's no point to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I'm like, okay, I can't really hit it now. I can't get to C7. He's on that. So now I've kind of got to go. If I do anything like this, he's hitting check. I move up, and he's snagging that piece, right? So
yeah.
So basically, this kind of creates this move, and so what I decided was he's saying we should go. The computer's saying we should go ahead and take here, take back, and it's. Yeah, we're lost here. But yeah, that's kind of like he had the advantage through most of the game. But I think it was a good game. I think there was a lot to learn from it. We can go back a little ways here. I think there's like I think this piece was too strong. I feel like that gave him a heck of a lot of advantage. It's pretty much, I mean, it's pretty much even Stevens up until, yeah, I shouldn't have taken the queens off the board. We didn't like that. Computer wanted this, and we're relatively even here. You know, he's up like half a pawn. So I think there was a lot to learn from that game, for sure. He played really well. And does that help answer some questions for you?
Yeah. Oh, it's always helpful watching. It's always helpful watching a game, and that was fun getting to kind of help think through as we went. What we should do, maybe what we should do sometime is play like a going here, but if we did like a real long time control where we can kind of think through it, and you sort of, you know what I mean? About, hey, this is what I would do, and you're telling me how you're thinking about it. That's pretty helpful because I don't know. It's more it's more in depth than like the analysis board just saying, hey, this is the best possible move.
Right. Yeah. And it does.
Because it doesn't tell you why, and it doesn't tell you why not to do what you're
Yeah.
gonna do.
Well,
Whereas you can do
it does
that.
run you through like your side bet here, and you can kind of see what the variation was to get to this new place. But White's still up about a pawn. White's still up about a half a point. So yeah, there's definitely I think some things we could like maybe get more into the woods with, as far as like, okay, let's really look at the opening game today, or let's look at like the middle game or the end game. And I think we kind of got into the end game a little bit more. I should study up on that a bit more as well. I think that would be good. Might be a good stream for both of us. But yeah, this I think will be really helpful. I think this kind of covered all the areas and what we're doing, what thoughts are behind the moves, and why we're doing what we're doing. Do you feel like your next game might be a little bit stronger now, looking at how like we're evaluating things, or
Feel that way like whenever we do whenever I'm playing chess with you, especially because I tend to play people who aren't as good as you because my rating isn't very good. So it
Right
definitely
on.
helps.
So now, did you have any, like, would you say like a top like 3 questions, like just like curiosity that are just like quick answers to silly things that you might have saw and were like, oh, maybe I'm a little embarrassed to ask what that means or what people are talking about? Do you have any questions like that before you take off?
Here. I have a lot of dumb questions that are. Oh, here's a good one. I wrote this down earlier. So, are all tempos equal? Like, does tempo just mean like one move? Moves that like you cost the other guy more tempo. Does that make sense?
That's a great question. Yeah, doing things with tempo. Let's take a look here at the editor. 1 second here. Where is that? I love that question. Tempo is so important. Board editor. So, for instance, a very common opening. I can't remember the name of this. Chris, do you remember the name of this opening here? Where I take and then queen takes here. I can't remember the name of it. This is a. Let's go to the analysis board. It'll tell us. Scandinavian. So this is Scandinavian defense. And right here, the computer's telling you right off the bat, we're gonna now attack the queen and develop a piece simultaneously. Now the queen is forced. Yeah, Scandinavian. Chess with Chris knew it. So now what this does is the queen's been activated, but now it has to move that piece an extra time in the opening, right? It has to retreat. So the computer says this is the best square, but a lot of times you're going to see this. Okay, so in this particular opening, we can gain some tempi. So that's one move that we've gained now, right? So we've got an active piece. They've got an active piece, but now we're coming straight out to open up our bishops. We've opened up both our bishops here with this move, and they're getting out another piece, and we're going to get out another piece. Then a lot of times, maybe they come down with something like this. Then we continue to develop. They'll come down here. I continue to develop, and here, then I can go in for this attack over here. And now they're having to move the queen yet again, right? And then I'm taking, and they're forced to take here. And now look, I'm ready to castle. Boom. Now they've got a piece down here. This has been broken open, like, and they've got these double pawns. They're having to castle queenside or whatever, and we're just. I feel like we have the initiative here, and if you look at the scoreboard, we're about a pawn ahead. So those tempos that we gained, we've got more pieces that are out and activated. We're castled, our king is safe, and their king's still in the center of the board. Now we can use that extra time to assault the king. Now he's got to take that time to castle. Now we're getting in our b4 push to start attacking on the queen side. So we're attacking first. See, now we've got initiative. Now they're reacting to us. So that tempo that we gained, see how they're reacting to everything we're doing right now. And we're going through with our plan. We're being very aggressive. And look, we're up 1.2 points according to Stockfish. So the tempo that we gained on the queen in the beginning is giving us this edge of initiative. And now we're dictating. We're doing the attacking. Now we can be aggressive. Now we can use that time to position our pawns, and we can be gaining tempos or tempi or whatever it is during this middle game. Does that make sense? Doooskey? Yeah, now I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Sorry, man.
Mm-hmm. So does that help clear up the idea of tempo? Okay.
It does.
Does anybody else in the chat? Does anybody else have anything to add to tempo or anything they'd like to share? I know chess with Chris. Chris's rating's a bit higher than mine. I think he's in the 18s or 19s on his classical game. I don't know if he's still in the chat. If he is, if he has anything that he feels like is important to know, he might be typing right now. Or anybody else who's here. I appreciate y'all being here. If you want to get involved in the chat, we love that. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of tempo, is just to, whenever you can gain tempo, you're going to get more of your pieces out and active. And that was the thing that Bobby Fischer was really big on, was active pieces. Like, instead of protecting things, getting things out and activated and moving and running, because that was going to gain those tempo for him, the tempi that was going to be important here. And as you can see, it's working to our advantage. Any other things? Oh, I'm here. Tempo is one of those fundamental things that measure who is ahead, along with space, development, etc. Yeah. So it's another asset. It can be another asset, for you that you're thinking about. Like he just said, you're looking at gaining space. You're looking at activity. You're looking at, that's how many activity would be, how many minor pieces you've got developed if you're castled, and then gaining tempos. So it all kind of goes together in this mishmash of how beautifully can you make all those things come together with each move, right? So cool.
Well, I appreciate it. I gotta
Okay,
get
great.
going here.
Well, man.
But that's fun.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was like a good idea. Like it didn't really go like as smooth, I think, as it could have, but I think that it's definitely one of those things that, like, oh, well, we've done this now. Well, we can do it again sometime and really be pros at it. But I hope that helped, and I'll be posting it on YouTube, so you'll be YouTube famous tomorrow. So if sometimes moving a piece twice in the opening, they are gifting you the time to start your attack before them. So that's some wisdom from Chris here. So anyways, all right. Well, Doooskey, thank you so much for stopping in, man. I appreciate you, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Have
you
a good
too,
night,
buddy.
man.
Take care. All right. And Chris, I learned that we can do that stuff with, we can do those calls with Discord, which is really awesome. We were using the Discord server there rather than Skype. So yeah, cool. Some fun stuff to learn tonight from our adventures there. All right. With Doooskey. Let's take a look at what time Little Caesars closes, because I am starving. I don't even think they deliver, though. Closes soon at 10 p.m. Oh, it's 9:59, so we will not be getting Little Caesars tonight. Dang! Love Little Caesars. All right. So